start to begin to drift south and eastward. The central and eastern parts of Kansas will very probably be cloudy in the morning, and then western Kansas will begin to get increasing cloudiness by tomorrow afternoon. Today, however, very, very pleasant reading. 73 up in the Goodland area, 72 at Garden City, 70 reported by Dodge City and Liberal, 72 over by the good folks of And in the Ponca City Blackwell area, 68 degrees today. Winds southerly at about 15 with gusts to 25 miles an hour. Barometric pressure 30.00 and is rising. And no precipitation. We're about a half inch behind, correction, half inch ahead for the year, and 1 5300ths behind for the year so far. We'll be looking for a little bit of a change tomorrow, and of course the possibility of some scattered showers. Today, of course, there's nothing showing up on the radar. However, the satellite photo was pretty interesting for the western half of the U.S. Rain showers and thunder showers along that frontal system, and that wide band of fairly heavy snows. Now, what will happen each time that you see the frontal system on there, that begins at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you'll see the cloud pattern move until 2 o'clock this afternoon. So as of that time, of course, the front was way off in the northwest. Now, however, it's moving into the central part of the nation with a couple of high-pressure cells behind it. Behind it, and a few pockets of low pressure, and a fairly heavy band of rain showers and snow all the way from the eastern portions of Montana down to western sections of Nevada. And of course the massive high picking up warm moist air from the south, bringing it northward. So when the two masses collide over Kansas, we are looking for some precipitation, and we'll talk about that.
I hope everyone is doing fantastic. I'm pretty tired myself, to be honest with you. I don't even remember. Do I even have a reference picture for this? Probably not. On the way back to my house, I had my dad give me the radio because he's listening to some shitty comedy and it was so fucking obnoxious. So obnoxious. It was just dumb. And so I was like, hey, you want to listen to some Vaporwave? And he's like, I don't want to listen to that shit. I was like, do you know what Vaporwave is? And he's like, no, I don't want to listen to that band. I was like, you don't even know what Vaporwave is, you dummy. And he said, well, it's probably some headbanging shit. I was like, no, Dad. No, it's quite the opposite. It's actually fantastic, and I think we should listen to it together. That might be some bonding, you know. And I'm out of it at this point because I got food. I'm happy. You know, I'm coming down, and I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so I'm tired as balls. And he's like, okay. So I just plug it up, and he's actually enjoying it. He's like, dang, it's not that bad. He didn't say that, but he wasn't upset, and he looked like he was actually relaxed. And that's really what I wanted. I wanted him to just kind of enjoy the music. You know, that's really what Vaporwave is, isn't it? Just some relaxation, you know? Some relaxation. And it was good. It was really good. It's, listened to a couple different songs, of course, but I had him listen to the one that I'm listening to right now. And he's like, it's not that bad, I guess. It's a little odd. And I said, well, did you like it? And he's like, yeah, I think, you know, I don't necessarily know if I like it. And I was like, well, do you not like it? He said, no, I don't think I dislike it. So what do you like, Dad? And that was it. That was it. Where is this texture? I know I had it. A little bit too high. Start right here. And then work. No. See, thing about eyebrows. I draw, whenever I'm on paper, I sketch to the side because my hand naturally wants to cramp up and feel odd whenever, like right here, the little squiggly lines, how it's very uneven. My hand wants to stop prematurely. So if I tilt my paper to the side like that, the motion, oh, where'd it go? The motion, oh, we're losing tracking here. The motion is very fluent. I'm gonna somebody. The motion is very fluent. So, you done? Okay. Where was it? So it's very like, yeah, it's like that, you know, versus if you were on this, you have a little bit issues because you're having to position your hand in a certain area, or you could do flat, I've done that before, where you just you put your pointer finger on the top of the nose of the pencil, and then you just drag it like that. But that typically doesn't work. It makes it kind of worse sometimes. I mean, if that was like what I wanted, the thickness, that would actually be perfect. So, I mean, it works, it doesn't. I'm still also on the shading period where I shouldn't be. Yeah, that's where I need to be. And then if you take your time, it looks a lot nicer, but we don't care about that. That'll actually work. I need to put one more One more line and we'll be fine. Fine. Eat. 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 Make a little bushy. Make a little bush. Thought about doing this on Twitch. But from what I've heard from a couple people that I know here on YouTube, it's not the best place to be at the moment. So I think I'm gonna stay away from you for now, little guy. I don't know what happened to Twitch, man. I don't get it. What do you mean? Of course you know exactly what happened to Twitch. They fucked over everybody because of those Twitch thoughts. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Nope. Let's do the other way. How about that? Yes. And one thing I always try to tell everybody that says they can't draw, I always tell them to change the perspective of their paper. And they usually look at me and they're like, what the fuck do you mean? You say, well, if you don't like the way that your paper is currently turned, or I guess the way that it looks, just move it. What's gonna happen? It's a piece of paper. It's not gonna crawl away. Just move it. It makes it so much easier for you to do your stuff, right? Right. It makes sense to me. So why wouldn't you do it? And for straighter lines, it's just easier to make a couple quick ones instead of trying to slave away by doing it slowly and methodically. Do a little blend. I'm a big fan of blending. It makes your product look super duper like flat, like there's not really edges, you know. It's very soft, and personally I'm okay with it. Now I can come in and fix all this, but I kind of like the gritty nature of the headpiece and the suit, if you will. And I'm not very good at shading, so it is very difficult for me. I never really liked shading when I was in art class, because it pissed me off. So I don't do it often. Let's make one more right below you. Make it above, actually. I'm not really a big fan of shading, man. I just never have been. It just pisses me off. I'll be honest with you, it just pisses me off. See, what I'm doing right now is making this whole back end of his mouth. There's nobody's teeth in the back are this fucking white. You got shadows going on, man. Got a whole bunch of stuff. Now, most of you, I can imagine, will figure out who the fuck this is. But if you can't, I advise you look up his YouTube channel. He's a fantastic human being who makes excellent music. Look at that. Look at that. Fantastic. So all I did was just make a little tiny shadow. That's all it is. See, it makes it look like he's actually looking downwards now. And this isn't supposed to be photorealism. I don't want it to be. This is just something for me, because I haven't sketched in a very, very long time. And most of my sketches are just kind of oddball, whatever I want it to be in that moment in time. Nothing super serious. But I tell you this, if you fuck up in art, man, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Because somebody out there is going to enjoy it. Even if it looks disgusting. Even if it's the most hideous thing you've ever seen, ever. Some idiot out there is going to enjoy it. Not necessarily because it looks good to them. It's just because they think in their mind they're incapable of doing it. That's what I figured out. If you really think you're that bad at art, man, you should see some of the stuff you see in museums. That's one reason I don't go to museums anymore. Is because of the lack of legitimate art. It's all a bunch of horse shit molded together. It's so garbage. Like what is it called? I can't fucking remember. What's it called? Hey Google. What's the art with blocks and cubes?
Check out these pictures.
Fuck. Hey Google. What is the art style with random cubes?
Pointillism. According to
No,
Wikipedia,
fuck off.
Pointillism is a technique of painting in which small, distinct dots of color are applied in pattern.
Stop.
According to
Stop.
Wikipedia,
Stop.
pointillism
Stop.
is a technique
Stop.
of
Stop.
painting in
Stop.
which
Stop
small-
talking. I know some of you are gonna say that. It's this garbage like where people just throw paint and call it art. Now, I'm not somebody who necessarily classifies that as not art. It's just it's a certain art style. It's an actual legitimate style. And this style consists of having no style. It's not good. It's not art. Someone took a piece of paper. They took it to the bathroom with them. And they just charted all over it. It's so just ugly. It's so ugly. I don't understand some people how you can have an art style that revolves around being literal garbage. So what I'm doing now, I know it looks like a bunch of shit. Just like, why are you just adding a bunch of lines? So like I said, the blending tool is a fantastic piece of work here. And this thing will make everything kind of fit together. And it makes all those ugly lines fit perfectly with one another. Look at that. Fantastic. Because nobody really has any definite shapes on their face. Nobody has, a severely straight line like this up here, Might look good. Might look nice, but nobody really has that. We just have shadows lurking. And then we come back and take an eraser and we get rid of all the shit we just got put on there because we don't need all that right there. Oops, that's too much, eh? Do the same thing up here. No, let's keep that actually. So now because that right eye is too wide, I'm gonna come back here, layer 3, and I'm just gonna drag my ass all the way across it. Yes, sir. You see it? Look at that. All the way across. Eye is too fucking big for you. And then we're gonna go right here and we're gonna make it even darker. Even darker. Really want a good black surface because we want the eye to look like he's squinting. He's squinting. And then because this person just so happens to be Asian, they're going to have very, very skinty eyes. Very skinty. That's about right. Just gonna make it mold together a little bit nicer. Because we want to blend the shadow with the eye. Because eyes are not naturally thick like this. I want everything to kind of come together. You know, it looks kind of odd at first. Don't worry, it's alright. Anything in art can be fixed. Just depends on how lazy you are, right? Yeah. That's all it is. That's really all it is. And I've heard some art teachers say art's just a bunch of shapes. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You know what art is? It's horseshit. That's really what it is. It's a bunch of garbage. I fucking hate art. I hate it so much. It makes me so angry. Because in my head I can picture exactly what I want. Exactly. On a pad though, no. It's very difficult for me to show y'all what I want to draw. That's why I typically don't do art. I typically don't. See, now that eye looks so much smaller than it used to. And we're gonna make it even smaller like my pee-pee. Come down here. We might have to get rid of some of the shadows since we're working a little more fine. Now we can make this dot a little bit smaller. And I'd say really tighten this up. But like I said earlier, art's a bunch of bullshit. Who cares? Now, I usually tell myself if I don't like it, it's alright. Because if I don't really like it, then I don't have high expectations for other people to like it. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want to do a good job on it. But typically you find somebody who happens to enjoy what you've done. Typically you do. It's very seldom that you ever find somebody who genuinely doesn't like what you're doing. And then what we can do is take a little fine gray line right here. Take the pencil. Go super detailed and very, very detailed. I've got this little knob. You want to hear this? Here's some ASMR. Hold on. I've got this little knob on my pad. Listen to this. Very nice. Here, I'll turn my gain up so you can hear this shit. Listen. Very nice. Now, if I take the pen and I put it over a specific area that I want, I can do this. See, it goes like that. And if I come down here, it comes down here. Look at that. That's fantastic, isn't it? I know. Who would have thunk? So, alright, now that the gain has been turned down, hopefully it sounds decent because I don't remember what it was at exactly, but whatever. Alright, so we're going to make I'd say the density 100% because we want to make it a little, actually we're going to make it about, say 80. The reason being is we don't want it to be super thick, because if you make it super thick, it's going to look like this, right? So we want to make it a little hollow, you know. I'm going to say even 70. So I'm pressing pretty hard down. See how it's a lot less thick? Now it says this is an eyeball. Eyeballs are very delicate, very delicate. So you want to be very delicate with your strokes. Very delicate, because again, you're trying to develop some form of detail. Even if it is kind of a shitty drawing, you wanna let your people know that see this thing. You wanna let them know, like, I tried a little bit of everything. You want to kind of add that little, make it a little darker, because again, eyes are not just black voids. And then when you get what you kind of want, you come back. All right, see, there's not much detail right there. Still pretty squinty. You come back. Oh, I'll use that tool that I've got. And you come down here, and then you go in here. Look at that. You go even lighter. And then you kind of come back out, and then you focus on little these wide areas. Little bit by bit. You start to lighten up the crease of an eyeball, because eyeballs don't typically vary in size, right? They don't really vary. They're typically the same size. I say in shape, depending on where they're at in location. So again, you can make this super light, super light. And this is little tiny details that you really don't have to focus on too much, because you're going to come back and just kind of gloss these over. Because typically with eyeballs, a lot of people in anime, what they'll do, they'll make their eyeball right. Obviously, this isn't done yet. They'll take a little white streak right here and just go, oh, density, remember? I'll go like this to go, and then maybe some little things here, just little stuff like that, and just makes it super glossy. Now that's not necessarily what they'll do in terms of, I guess, art, but they kind of make it, they want to get that little circle that every anime character has to have, right? Everybody has to have. And then they'll make this perfect ass fucking stupid eyes. Stupid. I hate eyes. I hate them. But with this eye, because eyes are naturally round, right? But the way that someone in medical field knows what this is, biology. The thing that wraps around your eye, your eyelid. That's what it is. Your eyelid typically will kind of change the shape of that circle depending on where you're looking. So, for example, if this person is looking up, the eye would typically start about here-ish, and then it would come up and like that, right? However, if they're looking directly at someone or something, it would be a little bit farther down, right? One thing that you'll notice is if you look into someone's eye, if you look really closely, it never touches this. Never. Unless you're squinting. Never. Because this person is squinting, that's why it's all the way down here, because the shadows make it look like it's very, 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 fuck you. Very small. Very, very small. So, that being said, again, we're not going to focus too much on the eye, because I don't typically care about what the eyes look like. I just want something on this piece of paper. That's all I want. I just want something. It's not going to be super elaborate. It's not going to be super grand, super fancy. It's not going to look photorealism. It's just something to do. That's really all it is. So, if any of you are looking into going into an art field, don't. Just don't do it. I'll take it this way. I'll put it this way. If you're going to college for art, you're wasting your money. If you're good at art and you're genuinely curious about how to start a living with this so-called art, you can make it on your own. You can. You don't need a career that's paid by debt. You don't, because only thing that classes are going to teach you is stuff to develop those skills. Meanwhile, you could have sat at home and done this yourself without having to spend a fortune. And I don't necessarily believe it's my place to tell anyone that they should not go to college. However, I think it would be a little interesting, I would say, to voice a small opinion, because I don't think it would be smart to waste all that money when you could have it by now. What I mean by now is, when I was younger, I used to sell my pieces of art. Never been to college, never been to an art school specifically. I would just give people my art, and they would pay me top dollar for it. You know, $200 for a scrap piece of paper. You know, and just some shit, some shit. Because people are stupid. People are very stupid, and they'll pay just about anything for something they can't do. Like car washes. Yeah, so car washes are kind of like painting. You don't really need a degree in either. Just you need to do it, and you'll make it a lot more efficient, a lot more effective that way. And some of you I know are in art colleges. Some of my friends are, and I think you're doing a wonderful thing. I think you are amazing at what you're doing. But I think you're making a dumb decision by paying for it. That's all I'm saying. That's really all it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with paying for college. Because he is looking away, this is going to be a little bit darker. However, I'm going to go back here, take this, swap that. That's all I did. That's all I did. To give it a little more depth, you know. Give it a little more like, this is where that eyeball is. Yes, sir. As in turn for the glare. Glare is something that often reflects. Glares don't really matter. You can typically put them wherever. Glares are only used for a sense of realism. It makes the eye look a little more in depth, and because of the recording, you can't necessarily see, I would say, everything in its most detailed state. I think the recording makes everything a little bit darker, a little more richer. So you might not be able to see what I see up here. That's alright. Nothing wrong with that. However, I believe on the recording, this right here, this line, will look a little more out of place. If that makes sense. Oh, another little small thing. Eyes, what is that part called? The white part of your eye, the back of it, the side of it, that's never white ever. It's not white. It's cream. It's a cream yellow color. So it's never truly white, but a lot of people keep them white. Things like anime and some self-portraits. But I guarantee you it's not white. That's why I don't do color. I fucking hate color. Color is such a sad excuse. I hate it. It's stupid. It's so stupid. See, I could do this. Change that. I could do this. I could think like that. About here. About there. Yeah. See, I could come in here, and I could just paint this whole fucking thing. Oops. And just. I could do that, but I'm not going to. Now, what I could do, sometimes I'll do this in art. I will. Oh, I should probably fix this size. Maybe not. I might do this and like that, and a little bit down here. All right. Now, what I've essentially done is I have created a layer that focuses on realism in the middle and a matte black on top. So this is in the background. All the pink is my main color on the top layer, if you will. And typically when it comes to top layers, I won't do it that way. I'll typically do this because I want the shading to be the quote-unquote realistic part of this. So I might do a little bit darker. That looks a little bit nicer. I'll come in and I will just drag this. Well, maybe I should do this layer. Yeah, there we go. That'll keep that. So so now what I'm doing here, I've seen this in a couple art pieces. They're essentially just doing a job half done. What I mean by that is they'll keep some resemblance of quote-unquote realism or a textured bit of a face or whatever they're sketching or drawing, and they'll leave everything matte. It's supposed to be kind of photogenic or pop art, if you will, kind of like a newspaper. You know, this kind of looks like a newspaper. And this is supposed to kind of, you know, just kind of, I'd say, stay in the quote-unquote background, even though it's over top of it. Meanwhile, this is supposed to pop out at you. And then I'd take this and get rid of, let's do a little bit bigger, make it easier. And then just kind of chip away at all the bits that I don't want. And it's not going to be perfect, but I just want to kind of show this. So this, all of this would be pink except for this. And eventually I'd come in and put some shading over top of this to make it look a little bit nicer. So that's, I might do that actually, because I don't typically like color, but it makes things look a little more obvious. And it's just kind of fun. That's this one. Only thing I like about art is you can do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, I'm not gonna draw a stick man with a penis, but you can draw whatever the hell you want, and for the most part, not get in trouble. I mean, push comes to shove, you post it on Rule 34, or you know, just Reddit maybe. Get yourself in the wrong kind of neighborhood, you know. It's good stuff. It really is. The porn industry is a wonderful place to really be creative, because typically if you're drawing porn, you can kind of malform your values within that piece of art. For example, like a lot of people like to make video games, you know, we don't want to make them political, but some video games are political without really trying to be. For example, Doom. Doom is typically a game about killing Satan spawn. And it's pretty good, but a lot of people don't really understand that like, you know, some of the things that go on in the background when it comes to game development, it's not just game development. For example, like Modern Warfare as well. One of the missions, you have to shoot a woman because she's trying to kill you, and there's a little bit of uproar about that, and it's not necessarily something that people want to do. And I'm sure they got bitched out for it. How dare we shoot women? So, games typically are a reflection of someone's values, whether they like it or not. And that includes microtransactions. You want to make money, obviously, but what do you care about more, right? It's kind of the same thing with art. You want to establish kind of who you are. So for example, if I really wanted to establish who I was, I maybe, you know, just when I'm finished with this, I just pop a little, you know, a little top hat here. A little top hat. That's how you make a top hat, by the way. Make a little top hat, you know. And you know, maybe some up here as well, you know. Just make a little top hat. A little top hat right here. And this one's kind of saggy. You'll just give me a moment. I spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to make a penis look like a car. Oh, jeez. But you can do whatever you want. That's the biggest thing for me. You can do whatever the hell you want. Typically. Unless you're in a communist country. Now, most people typically look at, I'd say, positioning when it comes to facial features. You know, does it line up with everything else? Does it fit with the rest of your body, you know? Are your proportions correct? And they don't have to be. They don't have to be. Contrary to what people believe, they don't have to be. Maybe your ears are not necessarily proportioned together, you know, they're not in the same height. So why the rest of your body should be is not up to me. Some people, you know, if you're making some furry porn, maybe they want those proportions to be good, you know. That's what a lot of hentai does. Like boobs. Boobs are not the same size typically, from what I've heard. They're not the same size. So, you know, people want a certain, like I said, they want a certain message. And with porn and hentai, they typically are trying to speak a certain language. And this language is typically, you know, we want a certain rhythm going on. And that rhythm typically seems to be perfection. Like, they always gotta have the titties make, you know, ecstatically just perfect. Absolutely perfect. So we're looking up here. We're gonna fix this eye in a moment. We're gonna fix this. Nah, we'll fix it now. And I might have some music going on in the background here. A little bit. Make it a little bit lighter. Fantastic. We want this layer to be on the very top. Oops. Let's see. A little low. Want this to kind of fit just right. Just right. Just to zoom in, I'll go right about there. Fantastic, fantastic. Yes, that is exactly what we want. So, well, that looks kind of ugly. Well, you're right, it does look ugly. That's why we take our little friend here. Kind of dumb this down a little bit. You just kind of roll it together. Because again, the blend tool is your friend. It really is. It makes everything a little bit easier. And that's about right, yeah. Blend tool, something you gotta kind of work with. Because the blend typically thinks that you want to just do it ever so slightly. And it's right, you typically don't want to do a whole bunch. Right there, yeah. And make that a little bit smaller, right? Fantastic. And curve that O. See, this one's being a little budgy. This might be in a different layer. That was correct. Look at that. There's nothing wrong with that. Just want everything to kind of work. And then, whenever it's being a little bit too bitchy with you, just kind of come in and slowly get rid of some stuff. Slowly but surely. There we go. Fantastic. Well done. Same things to make. Alright, well, I am close to, I'd say, getting done with this little eye here. I ran out of disk space a little bit earlier, so I had to kind of fix that, and I apologize. That's no problem. No problem. Alright, so we want to make sure that this is darker. We can come back and fix this in a moment. Just for right now, I want to make sure that it looks a little decent. You know, eyes typically curve a little bit more. Maybe a little bit lighter on the sides. Fantastic. See, that looks so much better than what it did earlier. It is such a big eye and it just did not fit well. A little bit smaller. Come down here. Let's see, blend that with that shadow there. That is good. I say so. Alright, and come back and just kind of get this to go along with everything. I want to make sure that everybody's in agreement. Especially shadows. Especially shadows. Alright. So now that that is somewhat finished, we're going to come back to this retarded eye here. Look at that. We want to make sure that we are kind of aligning them up. Now, we'll fix it here in a moment, but I just want to make sure that it is, you know, lined up with the other somewhat. Alright, so I'm probably going to speed this up, but I will take just a moment to kind of, I'd say, get this eye established. So I'll be right back in a moment. I am back for the time being. I had some food, so I didn't wanna munch in the mic there, but I'm back for a little bit. So now what I am doing is trying to really fix up all the little stuff. And typically that includes like hard edges, you know, because nobody really has any of those on their face. And I think I'm gonna I might smooth out this gritty texture. I just kind of wanted to leave that there. I was gonna try and see if I could use that for maybe some eyebrows. You know, I might fix this eye a little bit, but I think it looks okay. Well, it looks alright, I guess. I'm gonna do some shading right here, and then might do some detail on the headwear. But aside from that, I think we're getting progress here, eh? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is focus just a tad bit on the mouth, because it is a little bit of a darker feature. This mouth is not typically, it's alright, it's okay, it could be worked on a little bit. I think this little section right here could be maybe cut off a little bit. Maybe right around here. Maybe make that density so we're not getting rid of everything. That's a little bit, I mean, that's okay. I think I'm going to leave the mouth for now. Because the only thing I really need is a highlight. And that will typically just kind of determine what's actually needed for the lip. Because lips have a certain shine to them. It's a super subtle, super duper subtle. You won't really notice it very often, except in certain lights. So this will get smoothened out just a little bit, but I want there to be just a little hint, little hint of some shine. Again, not too obvious, but I want it to kind of fit just a little bit. Go in here and just kind of soften everything out a little bit, because for a shine to work, you have to have a little bit more texture. So what I'll do to fix that is I'll just take a black streak. That's white. I'm retarded. A little bit of a black streak right here. Come down with the blur. And then really fill this out. We need this to kind of disappear, so I might change the density to 100 and just keep doing this until this almost disappears. Now on your screen it will not necessarily disappear completely, and I understand that. I know that this right here looks a lot darker, and so does this, and that's okay. The biggest thing is I want this to be a little bit lighter than the rest of it, because this part of the lip is actually shining. So I want to kind of keep this as smooth as possible, and the bottom of the lip needs to be super smooth. And we'll come back maybe with an eraser, that might work a little bit better. And we'll take super fine print and just lightly tug at it just a little bit. Slightly, ever so slightly. Let me see here. Slightly tug at it just a little bit by bit. Really don't want it showing too much. Oh, well, I clicked eraser, but I don't think it's erasing now, is it? Huh. That's odd. How about we go here? There we go. I want this just barely noticeable. Because again, we're trying to give the illusion that it is shiny, even though it's a piece of paper. Nope. Just barely. Not something that everybody needs to see, but just barely like that. And now we will come back in, take the blur tool and just kind of get rid of that edge right there. Just slightly. There's something on my monitor. Yeah. So that's fantastic. Kind of did the same thing with the tongue, you know, wanted just barely noticeable. Fantastic. So I did finish the eye just a little bit. This one I'm gonna leave as of right now. I think it looks pretty good. I might come in here and do a little bit of shading, because the sides of the eyes are typically a little bit darker because they are looking upwards. So we'll do a little bit of brush, right? A little bit of brush and do a fine tip here. About 4. And we're just gonna drag just a little bit, just ever so slightly. Go ahead and turn that density all the way up, because I really need to see this. That's white. Just slightly. Same thing, kind of come in here, right, yeah. And then we're gonna take this blur tool again. Make this about 3.5. And really work it, because we need this to look almost as if these lines never existed at all. So we're going to make the min size a little bit higher, cover more ground. I'm going to go ahead and make this just a tad bit bigger so we can cover that little excess area. Fantastic. And do the same thing on this side. Well done. Okay. Excellent. Really, we want to give this eye not super white, you know, at the bottom, but we want to kind of keep our distance. Right, so it looks a little bit better, you know. If anything, we need to make this side just a little bit wider, so go ahead, take an eraser and turn that on about 45 density. And just kind of lightly come in here. And just kind of get rid of this excess that we don't need. Right, because we need to have a little bit of shine on these sides of the eyes here. That looks alright. We'll come back and go to the blur and just kind of gloss over it. Because we still want it to fit with the rest of the picture. We just need a little bit of shine, that's all. Excellent, well done. Okay. Let's see here. So again, we need this eye to really look squinty. You know, we need to make it a little more oomph. The problem with layers is that you sometimes get a little confused as to where everything is. So you gotta try it in a couple different spaces. Take this blur, even that out. I want everything to fit with each other, everything. I want everybody to be happy. This might be in a different, there it is. Need everything to be fitting. Was that it? No. Here we go. I think it was the top layer. Maybe. me kind of get out of here. No, doesn't seem to be changing. No. Kind of blend that together. Alright, so this eye will need just a slight, super subtle shine. Super subtle. So the easiest way to do this is just take a little bit of gray here, go to pencil, super tiny, I'm gonna do about 0.8, just kind of, yeah, just like that, that's all we need. So I am a little worried about this right here. It's the teeth. Because everything's pretty textured except for the teeth. The teeth are not that white. So what I can do is just kind of fill in these gaps. Maybe what the teeth do look like, because we just we want a little bit of extra, you know. Want a little bit of extra oomph, because most teeth have like a certain format of how they look, right? You know. See, that looks a little better. A lot better than what it used to look like, eh? There we go. Maybe come back here with the shading and just kind of make sure everything's fitting together around the teeth. That looks pretty good. I can't see it too much on my screen, but that's alright. Now, if you want to see what I see, that's probably what it would look like. Maybe on your screen. Maybe a little bit darker than that. A little bit lighter. Maybe a little bit darker. This is what it used to look like. That's what it used to look like. So, I wanted to get rid of this eventually, you know. We don't need it anymore. Keep that about right there. A little bit lighter. Trying to look on the monitor. So that's probably what you see roughly. Maybe. So we need to focus a little bit on this thing right here. This is not that dark. It's really not. So again, I'm going to take that blur tool, make it a little bit bigger so we can have some more work distributed throughout, and then we are going to figure out exactly where this is at by doing this, coming back to that layer and just kind of thinning it out slowly, thinning it out, bringing it back. And then still kind of messing with me. We want to try and drag this out and fill together. We still want it to be apparent that it is a shade, but we also want to make sure that it's fitting with everything else. Because it's a big difference, You can see it. If you can see the shade, then it's just a bright line at that point, right? I want to make sure that everything is kind of not super obvious, but fitting together roughly. Come back here. That's pretty good. So it is still pretty dark on your side, and that's alright, nothing wrong with that. We'll just kind of fill everything. Just lightly. Kinda, sorta, just kind of pull a little bit where we need it to go. Not super obvious. Just slightly. Then come back to the blur tool, and can you guess? Oh, we put it together. Yes, sir. And it's alright if it's not super connected with the edge of the picture. That's alright. We just want it to kind of mold together with our character here. Because we want it to fill space. We want it to be depth. We want it to go with the existing lines and shapes that aren't necessarily defined just yet. And one of the biggest things I would say on this piece of art is that we need to make sure that this top portion is pretty dark. So it is already pretty dark because of the outline, but we need to have some parts a little bit lighter than others. So for example, let's take this and we'll go up here, take the eraser, and just kind of peel off of it. Because again, this portion right here is darker than say this portion up here. So first we need to do is take the brush tool, a little bit smaller, and then just kind of crease it. We want to kind of give that illusion that there's a lot more depth in this piece of paper than there really is. And then we'll take this, go to that blur, and just fill in that space. Fill it in. Fantastic. It fits quite well. I mean, it like I said, it's super subtle. You really won't notice it until you kind of erase some things, you know. You want to make sure that all your layers make something really stick out, something pop out. So this edge is pretty light. It's pretty light. We'll just slowly start hacking away at it. That's alright. It'll still stay there. Just barely notice it. We'll leave some of that thickness there. And we'll come in here. Make this pretty thin as well. There we go. We'll take this pencil and we will kind of go back in there with a dark, kind of a dark right here, yeah. And let's blur, make that a little bit shorter. Just kind of make it a little soft, Alright, and then we'll come back, take a little bit of a look at it. It's not super obvious, you know. It's there, it exists. Now if I were to draw maybe some shoulders, you know, maybe some shoulders kind of maybe coming from here, you know, or from right here, you know, then we'd want to kind of remove some of the, I'd say, the darkness of the outline, because, you know, this is pink, right? So, and this is a little a little bit tan and maybe a mixture of yellow, right? So this is a vibrant pink. This would be about, maybe right about, about here, right? So now the darker pinks obviously would be a little bit farther in, maybe a little bit darker than that, like that. You know, it gets darker on the inside, but we're not doing that. We are simply making a face. And a lot of people kind of freak out when it comes to shoulders. I'll tell you, shoulders are very easy to make, because shoulders not something you should really fret about. Typically shoulders are simple lines to be drawn. They don't take much skill. You know, you want to match up the body, because the neck, if it's tilting downwards, that's a terrible arrow. If it's tilting downwards, then obviously the neck is going to be kind of right around this area, right? Now, if it was looking straight at us and the eyes were about right here, about here-ish, and the neck might be brought down a little bit, you know? Now, obviously this is a thick neck, but his head would also, his cheekbones would be about right here. So you want to kind of, you know, proportioning is not necessarily something you should be focused on all the time, but when it comes to shoulders, I mean, shoulders are simple as that, really. Then you kind of figure out what you want to do from there. So anyways, we are going to continue with the sides of his face. And can you guess what tool I'm going to do that with? Now, the reason for the blend tool being used so much in most of my art is because skin is not necessarily something that is to be, I'd say tampered with, maybe the right word. It's not necessarily defined in terms of like a strict pattern. Typically, skin is a little more free form, where you can get a little crazy with it, but you want to make sure that the shading is correct. Because skin, different parts of your skin are typically the same color. They're just a different type of shade. So this is why I'm doing this. This blending tool is a fantastic piece of work. So again, we'll just keep doing that. Not a big deal. Just want to make sure that it's dark at the edge. But overall, we want to make sure that it's pretty light until we get to that really fine edge. This might be a different layer. Maybe it's just angry at me. So what I can do to fix that really quickly is just drag a piece of pencil in here. And then come back to that blend tool and just fix that right there. Yes, sir. And all these little darker spots will be fixed fairly soon. Just gotta give it some time is all. That's about where I want that. So we're gonna take this a little bit lighter, pretty skinny. It's kind of a little bit darker than that. About right here. Yeah, a little bit darker. Just kind of meet me halfway, if you will. Not too obvious about it. Just right on that fine line. We'll take an eraser and make it fat. And just come in a little bit too much there. We'll come in here. I'll make that density 100% size. We're gonna make it full because if it's minimum, then some of the edges will not work properly. We'll make sure we're getting rid of any excess here. Fantastic, fantastic. Alright, and then we've done that piece. So we need to come back in here and take that blending tool, blur, just graze it ever so slightly. Now again, this will look different, I understand that. So I'll just keep working at it and try to blend it as best as possible. There we go. All right. Look at that. Pretty good. Pretty good, huh? All right. Now, of course, it's not necessarily defining the skin, but that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to establish that it is skin. We're not trying to make it obvious that it is outlined. We're trying to kind of keep that I exist solely for the purpose of being skin. So, let's see here, just check really quick. Yep, that's what I thought. Alright. And we will continue at the bottom. A little bit closer here, because again, we're trying to really fix some of this choppy looking stuff. Because we don't need it to be that choppy. We need it to be just a little slight feature. Still need it to be dark though. Still need it to be dark. Just not nearly this gritty. Come back with this and fix some of that. Alright, let's continue. I'm gonna go ahead and make this 500. I'm kidding. Let's make that a little bit bigger just to go a little bit faster. Back here and just drag it and drag it. Look at that. And it's almost gone. That's alright. We'll come back with the brush and we will re-add it. Because that's what it is all about. Just making sure that all the good bits are properly kept. Drag that in because this person is not overweight. Take an eraser and just get rid of all the extra stuff we don't need anymore, right? Go ahead and make that density 100. We could probably increase that, cover up some extras. Oh, well. There we go. That's perfect. Fantastic. Come back with that blur tool. A little bit smaller here. And we will blur this. Yes. Excellent. Fantastic. come back because this is not properly lining up with the rest. Well done. Alright, then we come back with the eraser. A little bit bigger than usual, and then we are going to shave off some of that excess that we just don't need in our life. There we go. A little bit too much there, that's okay. Make this about let's do 180. Get rid of a little bit of it. Alright, so that shadow is seeming to keep some of it. And that's okay. No, I don't want that to happen. Just want to get rid of a little bit of it. There we go. That's alright, we'll go ahead and come back in a moment. Alright, and then we will add this brush back. Come back here. Blur. Just a little, we want to make sure this is working. Top I'm not worried about, but this and this side needs to be perfect. We'll go ahead and curve this so I make sure that it is done properly. Good. Excellent. Sure, this is done as well. And this side as well. Come back with that eraser and get rid of that extra bit. Good. Alright, so we need to work on his headpiece just a little bit. Let's make this a little bit smaller. It's right about here. Okay. Alright, so the face is almost done. The teeth need to be worked on for sure. 100%. I'll leave that be for a little bit now. I think this will be, I'd say, I think I'll work on the teeth and part of the hat in the next video for now, and the eyebrows as well. So again, I appreciate every single one of you that's taken the time to watch this, because this is long.